This is Contact, a podcast written, voiced, and produced by radio students in the RTBN program at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Here is your host, Sarah Wolfe.
Hey, it's Sarah. On this episode of Contact, we are talking about storytelling in art and media and how it brings people together. And this episode of Contact is brought to you by Offset Studios, a full turnkey production house right here in Calgary. Their 4 studio spaces have broadcast quality audio and professionally lit multi-camera setups. Create content that you need at offsetstudios.ca. Storytelling is essential to the human experience. Throughout generations, it's how we have passed down our history and the lessons we've learned as people. It's how we are connected to one another. We tell our stories in many ways, but art and media are unique. A photo of a person can begin to tell a story when we see a smile, but also see pain in their eyes. In music, a minor key will tell a sad story, while a major key tells one that is happy. While a documentary can give you many different perspectives on the same story. And yet, all those kinds of art and media could tell you the same story, but would have different impact on the listeners. We all have a story to tell, no matter our walk in life. And when we tell our story, we invite someone into our world. It's amazing the deep connections that can be made between people when they sit down to hear one another's stories. I sat down with Kristin Koncan, a communications instructor at Red River College Polytechnic, and I heard her story, how it's been a part of her life and her career. I'm excited for you to hear that conversation. I also had a discussion with Kaity Body and Dave Robinson. Kaity is a wedding photographer and Dave is a pastor. And despite having vastly different jobs, they found a connection by telling their stories. In our chat, we discussed how story is a part of their jobs and the kind of impact it has had in their lives. I'm sure that you will find things you can relate to in the stories that they share. Each of my guests shared a nugget of wisdom from their experiences that you will find interesting and applicable to your own story. So let's take a slow breath, get quiet, and lean in to hear their stories. Are you ready?
This is Contact. Listen in as Sarah speaks to Kristin Koncan about her experiences in storytelling.
All right, on today's episode, I am welcoming Kristin. She's an instructor at Red River in communications and has a wide variety of creative work that she's done in her life.
I am really excited. I am very passionate about this topic of creativity and storytelling. And so thanks for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. I thought you would be into this, so I'm glad that you are. First, I would say, how is storytelling and part of your life, maybe in work or in other areas of your life?
We have a program out here in Winnipeg. It's called Creative Communications, and you can do a joint degree. There's a Winnipeg U of W side, and then there's the Red River College, now College Polytechnic side. And so I was like, you can get paid. Literally, someone told me about this. You can get paid to communicate? Yes. That is what I want. Actually mind blown. And I took a stream. They had a stream at the time. It's called public relations. And really the core of it is the strategy behind communicating and how to persuade people and get people to see different perspectives, and how even changing your own perspective on things. You have to do the research to understand, where are people coming from? What stories did they come to the table with, so that you can change and shape those things. And so, I graduated from there. I worked in agriculture right after. And that's only because I grew up on a farm. I love farming. I love driving combine. I actually told the HR people who were 32nd floor, which in Winnipeg is the tallest building in Winnipeg. This is where their office was. I go in for an interview. I'm in heels and a suit blazer, and I'm feeling that Devil Wears Prada scene where I'm look at me and I'm professional and I'm I've got this. And I walk in, and at the end of the interview, they're so why should I pick you? What differentiates you? And I said, I can drive a combine. That's a part of who I am. That's a part of my story. I can drive a combine. And they hired me for the permanent full-time, even though I didn't have the multiple 3 to 5 years of experience, blah, blah, blah. It was because I told them a story by saying, I can drive a combine. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
So
this is great.
This is me. And that's probably the longest answer you will get.
I know that you've created a lot of things. Like when you were talking about working at a farm, I was like, she made a video or a film about farm or about her family farm.
Yeah.
And so like, is there a piece of something that you've created where you're like, this is a really cool thing, or something that you've watched and like that was a really cool thing for you, a moment for you that was like, yes, this story that it's telling was like on spot and I loved it, and it like kind of changed maybe what you were doing or who you were.
It's funny that you mentioned like the egg video that I made. So like that was we back in school, we had, it was called an independent professional project. You got to pitch whatever it was that you wanted to do. And so I actually pitched the concept of filming my family for a year. It is a family heirloom for us now. Like, I don't care if anybody else watches it. It's the fullness of that story. Like it brings in those visuals bring in so many other memories, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's this one thing I remember playing in there as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Or watching my dad fix things. And I'm really emotional about fixing farming equipment, as you can see. But like that's the beauty of it, right? Like stories can take you back into not just one memory, but so many at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's good. It's what you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so if you as the storyteller can like pull from people's memories, and it's, I've had people who have watched that, and like by no means is it like a cinematic masterpiece. Like, oh gosh, like I was a student, but like I've had people, neighbors, whatever, they watch it and they're like, oh, like transitioning family farms is so like real for them. They're crying in it. It's not their family. It's not their story. It's not whatever, but it is.
Yeah. And for sure, like stories definitely do that in so many different ways to connect people, like things that we've felt, even though it's a complete like different story and a different experience someone had, but those feelings,
they translate
like the same, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really appreciated your perspective and the stories that you have told, even just in this conversation we've had. Yeah. So thank you for giving me your time. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Creating content is harder than it seems. Sure, you've got the idea, but you also need quality equipment, a good-looking space, and the knowledge to use it all. That's why you need Offset Studios, a fully equipped production house for creators who want professional results without the hassle. Their 4 unique studio spaces, professional equipment, and knowledgeable staff mean all you need to bring are the ideas, and Offset will handle the rest. Make your story happen at offsetstudios.ca.
You're listening to Contact with this week's host, Sarah Wolfe. Up next is a roundtable discussion with 2 special guests.
Welcome to the roundtable here on Contact. I'm your host, Sarah Wolfe, and I'm joined by Dave and Kaity to discuss storytelling in art and media and the impact it has on people. So let's get started. Thanks for being here, guys.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. We'll start off with, how is storytelling just a part of your life? Maybe Kaity, you can start with that.
So I am a wedding and portrait photographer. So in that, I feel so lucky I get to capture some of the most joyous parts of people's lives.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you also get to really see, everyone in their lives, like you get to see the family connections, the friend connections, just over such a short amount of time, like a 10-hour day, you really get to know people. So
sure. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, storytelling's always been a part of my life, but specifically now, I'm a pastor, have been for about 18 months now. So yeah, storytelling, the fact that I get to communicate the greatest story, I believe, but also I get like a special insight to other people's stories, and input in people's lives and impact their stories and communicate the Bible and how that impacts the story that they're currently in, that part of their story. And so
wonderful.
Yeah.
As people who use storytelling and art and media, but also probably are consuming it and taking it in, is there a piece of art or media that's just made an impact in your life or changed you?
Going into wedding photography, you kind of have to be, kind kind of entertaining. You have to be fun.
Yeah.
You have to be like
excited
high
about
energy, not let like stressful situations get to you.
Don't be a bummer at someone's wedding.
Don't be a bummer. That'd be awful. So yeah, that really helped in my journey to confidence as well. Just kind of taking direction and making people feel happy and being happy with the product that I can give them as a service. And so that really helped. And then in terms of art form for the acting side, that kind of just kept going with the confidence side. Like,
Sure.
Oh man, I took this class called Meisner and it just tore a strip off of me. It was just like, It felt like an onion layer was being peeled off of me. Like I've never been so, like no one's been so forward with me before about like what, like the mask I was wearing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm both terrified and also like this, I'm obsessed with wanting to figure out like why I am the way I am and trying to like, take that and kind of find that authenticity and vulnerability, like I said before. So yeah, it's been that's all the artistic things for me lately. It's just been a lot of life-changing moments the last couple of years, especially.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
It's going to be that obvious answer for a pastor, but it is the Bible itself.
Sure.
Like, it gives you a life purpose. And again, even how you talking, Katie, like being pulled back like an onion in that program you do, I feel like the Bible does that for me, man. The Bible just reveals the truth of who you are. And so if you read it with open eyes and honesty, it can't not change who you are. So that, for me, the Bible, and the more I read it, the more it changes my life, and I'm revealed more of who I am, but in light of who Jesus is. So yeah.
Stories are part of your work, part of what we do, part of how we go about things. And maybe there's ways that story can influence strategy and how you're working or what you're doing in your life. Is that a thing that you do? Like, how does that happen for you?
Just through my wedding photography business, it's just, again, just that vulnerability and that authenticity and being curious about other people and putting all focus off of what you're doing and just really serving other people in that moment. And that whole process leading up to a wedding, I think it's been, my recent strategy, but it's also just like in every relationship in my life. I think that's been the most important lesson for me recently, is just less focus on self and just serving others wholeheartedly and being yourself and having fun with it. Instead of trying to I don't know, be in this mold of what the rest of the industry is doing. So just be true to yourself.
Yeah. Just communicating with people that no matter what you're going through, you're not alone in that. Other people are going through that. And I think that's the biggest thing for storytelling, man. Like, if people feel alone and whatever walk of life it is and not feel like they've got something that connects them with someone else or something else, then that's I don't think we're made to be like that. I think we're made to be part of God's story ultimately, but even in each other's story. And
So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is Contact. Sarah is here to wrap everything up with her commentary on the topic. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, its employees, or affiliates. This podcast is produced for educational purposes.
When I chose this topic, I already knew that stories were important. But through the discussions I've had, I've realized how even more stories are important to each one of us. As children, we want to hear stories, especially stories about our family and friends. When we meet someone new, we want to know their story. And it's through sharing stories that we can have a deep connection with each other. A story like Kristin's about her family farm can connect with anyone who has felt loss. I've never farmed, but I connected with her story because of the difficulty I've had with dealing with loss and change in my own life. Kaity's story of being on a journey to find confidence and self-worth is one that many people can relate to. Or Dave, sharing how the Bible has had an effect on his life and how its story changes him. He really showed us the impact that story can have in our lives. Maybe you can relate to that. And maybe you have a story that's coming to your mind right now, and you're thinking of the way it has shaped you as a person. We are all storytellers. Maybe we're not sitting around a bonfire and sharing our history, but we do share stories in many ways. Maybe you're someone who uses art and media to tell your story. Maybe you plunk out a melody on an instrument, or maybe you share a vulnerable post on social media. Maybe you weave your story between jokes and comedy bits. But in one way or another, you are telling a story that connects with someone else and shows them they're not alone. One that will help someone walk through a difficult time in their life. One that will help someone to realize the change that needs to be made in their life. Or maybe someone is telling you a story that will speak to you wherever you're at in your life. We were made for story, to live our story, to tell our story. What story will you tell? I hope this episode has caused you to consider the story you're telling in your life and the impact you can have on the people around you. As we end off this episode, I challenge you to tell a story from your life to a friend or even a stranger and see how it connects you. Thank you to my guests Kristin and Dave and Kaity for sharing their stories. And thanks to Offset Studios for sponsoring this episode. If you'd like to film your story, they have a space for you. And thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Contact, a podcast written, voiced, and produced by radio students in the RTBN program at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Thanks for joining us this week as we shared our stories.